What's up, you guys? King of Home, Stephen King, and for the first time in well over a year, I have noticed a lull in the marketplace. I've witnessed a drop in buyer activity in the last 3 weeks. So what the hell does this mean? Is this going to be 2006 all over again? Is the real estate market going to crash? Are prices going to plummet? Let's talk about it. So in order for you guys out there to understand what I have witnessed over the past 3 weeks, which is instead of a listing getting 30, 40, 50 showings in the first week, I'm noticing those same types of listings and same quality of listings getting 10 to 15 showings in the first week with a little bit less activity at the open house. So what does that mean? Now, in order for you to understand how that compares, it's important for you to know what a balanced market looks like. For most of you guys out there right now, you are first-time home buyers. You have never been in the market before. You only know this market, one of the hottest real estate markets in the past 100 years. So you may not have experience in a balanced market, so let's talk about what a balanced market looks like so you can understand, is that lull and that drop in buyer activity that I noticed over the past 3 weeks, is it a big difference? Is it going to affect prices? Are we still in a seller's market? Are we going towards a buyer's market? How long is that going to last? A lot to talk about, so let's start right here. Now, there are 3 important things to point out, and for the common consumer, whether you're a real estate agent or a buyer, to know in order to understand what a balanced market looks like. Now, the first point I want to talk about is something called an absorption rate. Pay attention here. If you're a real estate agent, I bet 80% of you may not know what an absorption rate is or have never heard of that before. This is a very, very important term in understanding exactly what a specific market is doing. By specific, I mean a town, a village, or that's how small of a market we're able to measure based on an absorption rate. So an absorption rate directly measures the amount of inventory in a market based on the rate of sale. What the hell does that mean? Let me give you an example. I'm in Patchogue, New York. So let's say Patchogue, New York typically sells on average 20 houses every single month. That's the typical rate of sale in Patchogue. And now let's say Patchogue has 40 homes for sale. If you take 40 homes for sale, divide it by the 20 homes sold per month on average, you will get an absorption rate of roughly 2 months worth of inventory. Now, that's great, Steve. Is 2 months worth of inventory good? Is it bad? Whose favor is it leaning towards? This is where we talk about a balanced absorption rate. What a balanced absorption rate is roughly 5 to 6 months worth of inventory. If your market has 5 to 6 months worth of inventory, most likely your market is not leaning in favor of a seller. It is not leaning in favor of a buyer. You are in a balanced state. When you drop below 5 to 6 months worth of inventory towards that 3 to 1 month worth of inventory mark, that is when you are leaning in a seller's favor. That means supply and demand is favoring the sellers. If you only have 2 months worth of inventory in your market, you are absolutely in a seller's market. For the past, 3+ years, my specific area has been ranging anywhere from 3 months worth of inventory, and I've seen it get as low as about 1.8 months worth of inventory, which is extremely in a seller's favor. Now, Once you get over 5 to 6 months worth of inventory and start heading towards 7, 8, 9 months worth of inventory, you are in a buyer's market. That means there are too many homes for sale in comparison to the rate at which that market sells. Now you're leaning towards a buyer's market. The next point to understand when you're trying to figure out the differences between a balanced market and a really hot real estate market is the days on market, or DOM. What the days on market measures is the time it takes from when a property is listed to when it goes under contract. Now, if you're outside of New York State, your sales process is a little different than here. We in New York State have to first list the property, get an accepted offer, then the buyer performs a home inspection, and then the buyer has to sign contracts, and then the seller has to sign contracts. We measure days on market in the state of New York based on from when the property gets listed to when the seller signs contracts. The minute a seller signs contracts, the property is no longer available on the market, and your DOM is based on how much time it took you to get from here to there. So if you list the property and it takes you 1 week to get an accepted offer, then it takes you 1 week to perform the inspection, then it takes you 1 week to get the attorneys to draw up contracts, schedule the buyer, schedule the seller, you would have been on the market for 21 days, and your DOM, days on market, is 21. In a balanced, healthy, stable market, one that is, again, not leaning towards a buyer's favor, not leaning towards a seller's favor, typically days on market are around 75 to 90 days. Lately, in the past 3+ years, again, those DOM, days on market, has been low towards the 40, 30, 20 days on market. That's when you're in a very hot market, as opposed to, again, balanced to 75 to 90 days. Which brings me, and we're going to pull this all together in the end so you can understand what I'm seeing right now versus what I was seeing a month, 2 months ago, and beyond that, and what we may see in the future. So, the next point I want to point out is the showings to offer ratio. This is also important to understand your buyer activity. How many showings does it take to generate an offer? That's your showings to offer ratio. Assuming you're taking a $500,000 home and you're listing it for $500,000, your showing ratio should roughly be about 10 to 1. Your showings per offer ratio should roughly be about 10 to 1. What does that mean? If you show the property to 100 different buyers and you generate 10 offers, that means your offer ratio was around correct, about a 10 to 1 ratio. Properly priced homes, again, typically have a 10 to 1 or 12 to 1 showing to offer ratio. So if a property has a 6 to 1 offer ratio, typically what that means is for every 6 showings you're generating an offer, that means your property may be either underpriced or you have the most beautiful, gorgeous home anybody's ever seen. If it is taking 20 showings or 30 showings to generate one offer, that means most likely your home is overpriced, or there may be something wrong with the home. Maybe it's damaged, maybe it needs way too much work, something along those lines. So assuming your showings to offer ratio is balanced and roughly 10 to 1 or 12 to 1, and in a balanced market, it takes you 75 to 90 days to sell your house, we can reverse engineer that to know that in a balanced market, you should typically see anywhere from 2 to 3 showings in a given week. So if you're seeing, let's say you're seeing 2 buyers a week, and it takes you 30 showings to generate 3 offers, and only one of those offers is acceptable. 2 buyers a week will take you 90 days to generate, 75 to 90 days to generate an acceptable offer, and that is equivalent with a balanced market. So what am I seeing right now today in comparison to what I was seeing 3 weeks prior to today? When I was listing a home, I was seeing roughly 40 to 60, as high as 100 showings in the first week. When you factor in listing on a Sunday and you get maybe 40 to 50 buyers or 60 showings, and then the open house comes around a week later and then you get another 20, 30, 40 buyers, you can get, on a very attractive home, 60, 80, 100 buyers in your first week, which was generating us anywhere from 6, 8, 10, sometimes up to 20 offers in the first week, which you guys have been hearing over and over and over again in this hot real estate market. Lately, the past 3 weeks, I listed 5 gorgeous homes, and every single one of them had a slight drop in buyer activity. By slight drop, I was noticing 10, 15, at the most 20 showings in their first week, with the open house not having a line around the block. The open house was a consistent buyer every 20 minutes, which means in the first week, these properties went from having 80 showings to 20, 25. It is very important to know, now that we understand an absorption rate, days on market, and showings to offer ratio, that 20 showings in a first week is still very, very strong. It is still very good, and it is still in a seller's favor. Of those 20, 25, 30 showings, 3 to 4 offers, which were all very good offers. All of those offers were over asking. My sellers are still selling for high numbers, and so it has not affected prices as of now. If that activity was to have, I think we will see prices no longer escalating and going as high as we have been seeing. Has the market hit its peak? Are we going to start tanking down towards the bottom? Is this going to be 2006 all over again? Very good question. So stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, do whatever you have to do to stay up on these notifications, so that way you know the minute part 2 drops, and you can watch it and you'll know how to navigate this real estate market and any changes that might take place.